We use lithium batteries in almost all the devices that we use nowadays, but we don't really think about the battery all that much because ultimately we have very little control over them. To charge most devices, it's a matter of just plugging in your charge cord and that's it. That's what makes the RC hobby so unique because when it comes to the batteries we use, we have full control over them. We control what batteries we pick, how we charge them, how we discharge them, how we store them, how we use them, and ultimately how we abuse them. So that's why in this video, we're gonna go over our top 10 mistakes that LiPo users make coming from the RC perspective, and this list is not in any particular order. Number 1, not balance charging the LiPo. It's absolutely necessary that every single time you charge your LiPo battery that it's on the balance charge mode. Always. The only exception to this is if you have a single cell LiPo battery, there isn't anything to balance because you only have one cell. But any LiPo that has 2 or more cells within it needs to be balance charged every single time you charge it, no exceptions. Number 2, discharging the LiPo down to 0. Draining a LiPo battery down to 0 energy not only creates a very dangerous condition, but it also will ultimately destroy that LiPo battery. The absolute maximum the individual cells inside of a LiPo can be discharged is 3 volts per cell. Beyond that, permanent degradation will take place in that battery. Number 3, not giving yourself enough headroom when you set the low voltage cutoff in your model's ESC. All modern ESCs or electronic speed controllers that are designed for LiPo use will have some sort of LVC or low voltage cutoff, which just cuts the battery in use when the voltage of the battery reaches a certain pre-programmed limit. Remember, we just said in number 2 that the maximum you should ever drain your battery is 3 volts per cell. But again, that's the maximum. So we don't want to ever come close to that. Instead, we want to check out what presets the electronic speed controller has for the low voltage cutoff and program one that's going to give us enough headroom just in case anything should happen. We have a bit of a buffer there so the battery cells never reach that 3 volts. We recommend a low voltage cutoff of 3.4 volts per cell. Number 4, not using a fully charged LiPo. Let's say you charged a LiPo battery with the intent of going out and using it, but instead something comes up and you can't. So the battery just gets set aside to be used some other day in the future. Well, if a fully charged LiPo battery is sitting around even for just a few days, it can start to experience cell degradation, and this often comes in the form of swelling or puffing. So never let a fully charged LiPo just sit around. If you can't use it in your model, then put it back on your LiPo balance charger and set it to a storage charge, which will discharge all that extra power out of your LiPo. Number 5, failing to storage charge your LiPo after every use. Even after using your LiPo battery in your model, the battery may contain too much energy or too little energy to be stored away for another day. So it's really important to create the very simple and basic habit of after use, put your LiPo back on your charger and set it to a storage charge. This will bring up your battery's voltage to the safe level if there is not enough, or it will bring down the voltage if there is too much, and ultimately the balance charge rebalances your cells so the battery is in a healthy state to be stored away. Number 6, buying a brand new LiPo battery but then not using it right away. All LiPo manufacturers storage charge their LiPo batteries before they get shipped out to be sold. And depending on where you buy it and who from and how long ultimately that LiPo has just been sitting around since the manufacturer storage charged it, could mean that that LiPo storage charge voltage has slowly dwindled throughout the days, weeks, or months since that storage charge took place. So, by taking that brand new battery and charging it, or at least balance charging it, is gonna help bring the battery voltage up to that safe level as well as balance out those cells. And if you let that battery sit around too long and you don't use it, you could be past your warranty date should you down the road find out there's some other unrelated issue. Number 7, not letting your LiPos cool down. First of all, as you probably know, when you store your LiPos, they should always be stored in a cool, dry place. Or let's say you just got finished using your LiPo and you want to charge it again to play more, it's important to let it cool down first before you recharge it. Ultimately, charging a hot LiPo battery will degrade it. And if your LiPo is really, really hot after you've just used it in your model, it could mean that the C rating is not adequate for your application. Or it could also mean that your LiPo battery was discharged too far. Going back to point number 3, ensure that your LVC has enough headroom. As a note, when it's really cold out, you can charge your batteries and use them just fine. That cold temperature will not harm your LiPo batteries, but cold batteries just don't retain the same energy that they do under normal ambient temperatures. So in cold weather, your battery may feel like it just has less power or less punch. And if you're curious if there's any harm to putting your LiPo battery in a refrigerator or a freezer, there is. But the real harm is not when the LiPo is inside the refrigeration unit. Instead, it's when you pull the LiPo out and it's now colder than all of the ambient temperature, which creates condensation, and that can form inside the LiPo, which is harmful and unhealthy for the pack. And don't leave LiPos in hot cars. Do I have to say that? I mean, it's so obvious. Number 8, buying used LiPos. When we buy used cell phones, we don't worry about the battery or how it was charged or used. It makes no sense. Only in RC do we have the ultimate control of our batteries. That means when you buy a used LiPo battery, you don't know how it was used or abused or charged or discharged or where it was stored or where it wasn't. That's why, unless you're absolutely certain of the history of a used battery, it's not a good idea to buy used LiPos if you can help it. Now, there are some exceptions, like Spectrum's smart battery technology, where their LiPos are now coming with a microchip that will relay the data of the battery's history. That information could be really handy if you were trying to buy those type of batteries used. Number 9, letting LiPo batteries sit around too long, unused, unchecked, and unbalanced charged. If for whatever reason you have LiPo batteries that are going to be sitting around without any use for months or maybe even years until you can use them again, it's really important to at least every 6 months stick that battery on the balance charger, rebalance the cells in that pack, and bring its voltage back to a healthy state. An even better practice would be just to take a cell checker and plug your LiPo into that cell checker maybe every 2 to 3 months, quarterly, and ensure those cells look okay. If they aren't, then put them on the balance charger. LiPos that just sit around idle slowly drain energy, and eventually those cells can drain down to a really unsafe voltage. That's why a good old-fashioned storage charge on that idle battery can help bring it back up to a healthy state. Number 10, throwing away LiPo batteries that still contain energy. LiPo batteries are perfectly safe and fine to just toss in your trash and go to your local landfill. But first, the battery must have 100% of its energy drained out of it before you can throw it away. If that battery still has energy in it, it's a huge fire risk for your local garbage company, who will compact the trash either in the garbage truck or at the local landfill. So that's why before you toss that LiPo in the trash, completely drain it of all of its energy. For more information on how to drain a LiPo battery down to zero, we're gonna link the ProTech LiPo battery manual down below. It's a good read and it has some good information in it. I recommend you check it out. All right, guys, that's our top 10 list of LiPo mistakes and how to avoid them. Some of these practices are really minor, and if you turn them into habits, you can create a lifetime of happy, healthy, and safe LiPo battery use. If you have any questions, please leave us a comment down below. And if you'd like more information on LiPos or to check out that ProTech LiPo battery manual, check out our links down below. My name's Brett with AMain Hobbies. Thanks for watching.